How's it going, guys? And welcome back to the lair. And so this is going to be today's first best of 3 preview for the video tomorrow. But before we get into it, I just want to say if you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. It's free to you and helps us out so much. Feel free to drop me a comment, talk about strategy, deck ideas, misplays. I read the comments daily. And if you have any friends or family that are into Magic, please share the channel with them. One last thing I'd like to say, if you're going to be a new follower or subscriber to either my Twitch or YouTube channels, once you do, just reach out to me in the chat or the comment and say something like, hey, I just subscribed or followed, and I can respond to you with an in-game code that you can use in Arena to unlock a mystery gift from Wizards. And if you subscribe and follow, I will give you 2 codes. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, this is the preview for the Naya Giants standard list that I'm going to be playing best of 3 tomorrow. So let's get into it. On to the 2 drops. We're skipping out on the 1. We're going to run 3 copies of The Birth of Meletis. This is an enchantment saga. First chapter says search your library for a basic plains card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Second chapter is create a 0/4 colorless wall artifact creature token with Defender. And then the third chapter says we gain 2 life. Running 3 copies of Scorching Dragonfire at instant speed. Scorching Dragonfire deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If that creature or planeswalker would die this turn, exile it instead. Running 3 copies of Mazemind Tome. It's an artifact, and we can tap it, put a page counter on it, and scry 1. Or we can pay 2, tap it, put a page counter on Mazemind Tome, and draw a card. And then when there are 4 or more page counters, we can exile it and gain 4 life. On to the 3 drops. We're running the full play set of Bone Crusher Giant. He's an adventure card, so his adventure side at instant speed, Stomp. Damage can't be prevented this turn, and Stomp deals 2 damage to any target. And then his creature side, he's a 4/3, and whenever Bone Crusher Giant becomes the target of a spell, Bone Crusher Giant deals 2 damage to that spell's controller. Running 2 copy of Shatterskull Charger. He's a 4/3 with Trample and Haste. And kicker 2, if he was kicked, he enters the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on him. And then at the beginning of your end step, if Shatterskull Charger doesn't have a 1/1 counter on it, return it to its owner's hand. On to the 4 drops. We're running 3 copies of Solemn Simulacrum. He's a 2/2, and when he enters the battlefield, we may search our library for a basic land card, put that card onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. And then when he dies, we can draw a card. On to the 5 drops. We have the full play set of Elspeth Conquers Death, another enchantment saga. The first chapter says exile target permanent an opponent controls with converted mana cost 3 or greater. Second chapter says non-creature spells your opponent's cast cost 2 more to cast until your next turn. And then the final chapter says return target creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Put a +1/+1 counter or a loyalty counter on it. Running 1 copy of Ox of Agonis. He's a 4/2, and when he enters the battlefield, discard your hand, then draw 3 cards. And then we can escape him by paying his escape cost and exiling 8 other cards from our graveyard. And then Ox of Agonis escapes with a 1/1 counter on it. On to the top end, we have the full play set of Realm Cloaked Giant, another adventure card. The adventure side cast off at sorcery speed, destroy all non-giant creatures. And then the creature side, he's a 7/7 with Vigilance. Running 3 copies of Emeria Shattered Skyclave or Emeria's Call. This is a module dual land. We can either pay 3 life and have it come into play untapped and produce white mana, or at sorcery speed we create 2 4/4 white Angel Warrior creature tokens with flying, and then non-angel creatures you control gain indestructible until your next turn. We are running the full play set of Beanstalk Giant, another adventure card. The Fertile Footsteps at sorcery speed. Search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. And then his creature side, Beanstalk Giant's power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. And then finally, Ugin the Spirit Dragon. He comes in at 7 loyalty. His +2 says he does 3 damage to any target. His -X is exile each permanent with converted mana cost X or less that's 1 or more colors. And then his ultimate -10, you gain 7 life, draw 7 cards, and then put up to 7 permanent cards from your hand onto the battlefield. So let's talk about the lands real quick. We have 4 plains, 3 mountains, 2 forests, the full play set of Timber Crown or Crag Crown Pathway, the full playset of Pillar Verge or Needle Leverage Pathway, and the full playset of Boulder Loft or Branch Loft Pathway. 1 Crawling Barrens, and 1 Fabled Passage. So this is Naya Giants in Standard. We have the Birth of Meletis to help us ramp, get an early blocker, gain some life. Scorching Dragonfire is for all those pesky rogues and other creatures that we would prefer to exile. It can also pick off Planeswalkers. Maze Mind Tome is just an amazing card in general. I would run 4 if I had an additional copy, but I don't. Helps us scry, helps us draw cards, helps us stabilize with life gain. Bone Crusher Giant, he's a giant, but we also have the adventure side, so we can pick off other creatures, and we can combo the Stomp side with the Scorching Dragonfire to take out bigger creatures and then exile them if we need to, or Planeswalkers. Shatter Skull Charger. This was kind of like the flex slot in the deck. I haven't play tested this yet, but I will soon. So this card could go. Or be used to replace with sideboard cards in the second match. But he's a giant, so I put him in there. Solemn Simulacrum, I would run 4 of him as well, but I don't have it, so he's only a 3 of. Helps us ramp, and then we draw a card later. We can stall and use him as a chump blocker if we need to. Elspeth Conquers Death, we're running the full play set. It's just an amazing card in general. Being able to exile a permanent that's 3 or greater helps us protect our board from board wipes on the next chapter, and then being able to bring back some of our threats with an additional 1/1 counter or our Ugin is just gold. Ox of Agonis is in here for all the mill and the rogues. When they mill us and then we bring them back, draw some cards, and have this nice big presence on the board to hit the face. Realm Cloak Giant plays into our giant theme, but also acts as a board wipe, since we are only running, well, that's a lie, we have mainly giants in this deck, but the Ox and stuff, we don't really care if he dies or the Solemn, we can just bring him back if we need to, but yeah, so, and then other than that, he's a nice thick body for 7/7 with Vigilance. Amaria's Call acts as a land if we need it, or late game we can end the game like that. Beanstalk Giant is also ramp, also a huge late game threat, and then of course Ugin is probably the best card in Standard in my opinion at the moment. He does everything, he hits stuff, he exiles boards, he gains you life, draws you cards. Other reason I went into Naya is because in Standard, these are the, it's really easy to play these cards, and we're going to have our colors fairly easy. So let's talk about the sideboard. We have the giant killers for all the gruel that's out there, the bigger creatures that we can't hit. Also being able to tap down creatures, rogues, stuff like that. Also kind of shortens our curve if we're playing more aggressive decks. Another Scorching Dragonfire, once again for more aggressive decks. I put the Wilt in here for that Great Henge and Ember Cleaves and stuff like that. Also if we're playing like a Doom Foretold deck. Phoenix of the Ash helps us also against rogues and mill. Klothys, God of Destiny, I think is very well placed in this meta as well. I would run an additional copy of this if I had it, but I don't. She slots in there if we're up against rogues or other types of pesky cards that we don't want coming back from graveyards. Storm's Wrath, the full play set of this if we need to bring our curve down more in case we're running more or playing against more aggressive decks. And then 1 additional Ox, once again, if we're playing rogues or some type of graveyard shenanigans. But yeah, that's the deck. It's pretty straightforward. We just ramp, stall, and ramp into our bigger creatures, which is our giants, and then look to finish the game off with Ugin or one of our many big boy giants. So yeah, that's the deck. I will be playing this deck tomorrow, best of 3. We'll skip out on the deck tech and the introduction, and we'll hop right into the best of 3. It's going to be a longer video, like I said, geared toward more of my hardcore viewers that are looking for something a little bit more competitive. And I hope you guys will tune in. We'll leave it at that. I just want to end it by saying if you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. It's free to you and helps us out so much. Feel free to drop me a comment, talk about strategy, deck ideas, misplays. I read the comments daily. If you have any friends or family that are into Magic, please share the channel with them. And don't forget, if you're going to be a new follower or subscriber on either my Twitch or YouTube channels, once you do, just reach out to me in the chat or the comments. Say something like, hey, I just subscribed or followed, and I can respond to you with an in-game code that you can use in Arena to unlock a mystery gift from Wizards. And if you subscribe and follow, I will give you 2 codes. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys tune in for the best of 3 tomorrow, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.